Welcome to What You Came Here to Create, the podcast to support driven, ambitious women who know that they're capable of more. I'm your host, Beck Sands. I am an author, a PR consultant, I'm a visibility mentor, I'm a certified coach, and I've also been in business for over 7 years. So together we are going to discover the mindset, the courage, the visibility, and the self-trust to support you to bring to life the business or the creative project on your own terms. But most importantly, this is a really safe space that you can come back to feel more grounded, because this work can feel so deeply dysregulating, but it doesn't have to. So let's take a deep breath and together, let's trust ourselves and get ready to do the work that we came here to create. Hello and welcome to another episode of the What You Came Here to Create podcast. It is so lovely to be here with you today. It is, as I'm recording this, it's a really wet and grey and rainy day here in Newcastle, which is unusual because it's normally pretty sunny, at least for some of the day, but we're in the middle of winter and it really feels like it today. So I am rugged up in the home office and doing some recording for you, lovely listeners. So it's not so bad. So I hope you're doing really, really well today. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's topic is really at the core and the heart of all of my work, which is creating your personal brand strategy. Now, this also aligns with chapter 3 of my book, What You Came Here to Create. And I'm going to be talking with you today probably just about a few things, not about everything, but just about a few things in relation to creating your personal brand strategy. Okay, so what if you could feel really good about building a personal brand? I just want to pose that question to you because I think a lot of us fear it. A lot of us worry about putting our work out there, and with good reason. A lot of celebrities, particularly like female celebrities and politicians, get really hammered in the media as well as on social media, and that feels really, really scary. They get attacked by the way they look, because of the way they look and sound and everything, right? And often their work, their good work actually just gets ignored because people comment on how they look. So I know that this can really put you off wanting to put your face out there and wanting to put your work out there. And it does for me too, right? I get that feeling. But what I'm going to share today is that you don't necessarily need to put yourself out there in front of millions of followers, okay? You only need to be visible in front of your ideal clients. And if you're a small kind of solopreneur or micro business like me, micro business owner like me, or you're building a career, then you only need to be visible in front of like your community, your network, your circle, okay? And so you don't have to put yourself on like TV or like in global platforms, and you don't have to be seen by millions and millions of people in order to grow your business, in order to have a thriving personal brand that supports you, right? So think more in terms of what is going to support you to be seen in front of your ideal clients, to grow your business in front of your ideal clients, and the rest is really none of your business. Like, unless you want to be a celebrity or a politician, then there's another level of training required. But for most of us, we're just kind of wanting to put our work out there just so that we can literally grow businesses that are sustainable, right? And so that we've got leads and clients potentially coming to us rather than us having to cold call everyone and then they have no idea who we are and then prove from scratch. So your personal brand is really at its foundation just the idea that people have of you, the perception that people have of you, the knowledge that people have of you before they even potentially meet you. So They might have seen your work online, or they've seen your work on stage. Like you might have spoken at a couple of events or done like a little panel or something like that. And so they know your work. And so they're like, oh yes, that person has the exact skill and talent and service that I need. Okay. So think about like my PR consulting business. So if I was to, go and speak on stage and share my offer or share on social media, and then I'm maybe ranking on Google when people type in PR consultant Sydney or PR consultant Newcastle, and then they reach out to me and say, oh, hey, like I need a PR consultant. I've just searched, you came up. Then I'm like, great, okay, let's work together. And that happens, right? And it's the same with like coaching and visibility mentoring. Like people will reach out to me, and I've made so many connections and clients because of the work that I'm actually putting out there, instead of me having to reach out. Like I don't think I've ever done it. I've never actually just reached out cold to someone and gone, hey, do you want to work with me? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that works. I'm not like a sales expert. Maybe it does. I mean, there are cold callers. Like I know I get called all the time by like salespeople going, oh, hey, I'm such and such. Like, would you like this service? And I'm like, no. But what is so much more easeful, what is so much simpler, is when you actually communicate what you do to your potential clients before you actually even speak to them. Okay. And you start to attract those people to you, people that are actually looking for your services, right? And also like being able to be in front of people so that other people can refer you. And so your existing clients, but also your network, so they know who you are, what you do. And they're like, oh, you should speak to Beck. She's a really good PR consultant. I've seen some of her work. And then they look you up, see all your work, see your public profile and go, oh yeah, that looks like what I need. I'm going to contact her to work with her. It's as simple as that. That's what it's all for. And so I'm not standing here, like and don't get me wrong, I love supporting my audience, and like that's part of why I do what I do, is to support people and to connect with people. Part of it is, of course, growing a business. And like part of it, I think, is like visibility is a healing journey. And so for me, it's a fulfilling journey. And putting myself out there is actually a really great way of up-leveling, of sharing my work further, of supporting more people, and so on. Okay, so there's so many reasons why we are wanting to build personal brands, but don't jump to, okay, I'm going to get trolled by 1 million people. You don't need to go there. It's probably very unlikely that it's going to happen. You might get 1 or 2 comments that say, oh, I don't like the way you look, or I don't like your work. And most of the time you see that for what it is when you read it and you go, block and delete. Block and delete. So it's just a very unhappy weirdo on the other side of that trolling. Okay, so most of the time it's not a situation where you're going to have thousands of people commenting on your posts. The problem that you are more likely to face is no engagement or a lack of people caring at all, right? And so this is the challenge that we actually face as business owners, as creatives, as consultants, as coaches, building small businesses where we're putting ourselves out there and, putting our work out there and doing the work that we came here to create. The biggest problem we'll face is likely no one actually seeing our work, okay? It's not going to be trolls and negative comments. It's actually just going to be a lack of engagement, because there's so many people sharing their work now, and there's so many avenues that are available pretty much on social media. So if you think about that, everyone has a voice now. And so the way to cut through that is to do a mix, okay? A mix of online and offline activities. There's so many different things that you can do when it comes to building your personal brand. And so really you want to start with a strategy, but the strategy can be super simple. Okay, you just need to have like a 1-pager. You can ask a few simple questions, which I talk about in my book, But you really just want to think about what your objectives are. So what are you really trying to achieve by putting yourself out there or by putting your work out there? Where are your potential clients? Where are they already hanging out? How can you meet them there? And then how can you start to build your own community of engaged people that follow your work? That's a really hard thing to do, okay? I don't want to lie to you and say, oh yeah, just start an email list and put it out there and then suddenly you'll have thousands of followers. It's not like that. Trust me, it's not. Especially in this day and age, socials are very pay to play space. There's a lot of advertising that's required sometimes to get in front of more people, but you can also build organic followings. You just got to get creative and follow a bit of the trends on social media. And building an email list is similar. Everyone's inboxes are cluttered. So you really have to be giving them something that they want because it's prime real estate. And building your own community, your own email list is super important because it's your space that you own and you can connect with them versus social media where you can have to pay to access your own audience. So for example, on Facebook and Instagram, in Facebook groups now, it's like something ridiculous, like a 2% engagement with your own audience. So people that have actually subscribed to your group to listen to what you have to say and like no one is hearing it. Okay. So you're then having to actually pay to access your own audience. But when it is your own audience on a platform that you own, like your email list, you don't have to pay to access or to talk to your own audience, if that makes sense. So there's a little bit of strategy that is required when you're thinking about and balancing those different elements of audience growth. But the easiest way to grow your business now is really and your personal brand now is really to tap into other people's audiences and aligned audiences, so people whose work is complementary to yours. You could do workshops for other people's audiences. You can present on stage at conferences and get in front of a whole new audience. So there's many different ways to build your personal brand. And when we think of marketing and PR channels, we usually think about it in terms of earned and owned. So earned means that you need to earn it. You can't buy it. So this is what we really do with PR, where we talk about pitching in media stories and then getting editorial coverage where they talk about you or quote you as an expert. And it's almost like a third-party endorsement of your work. So that's kind of earned coverage. And also similarly, appearing on other people's podcasts is earned because you've got to pitch yourself, provide something valuable, and then be a spokesperson on that podcast, right? What else is earned? Anywhere where you're tapping into other people's audiences is essentially earned, and you're not actually paying for it, right? That's earned. And then owned is all of the channels that you own. So for example, your email list, it is your own social media channels. Although like I was saying before, you don't necessarily own those because the platforms own access to your audience and can make you pay for it. But all of those channels where you have control over, and again, you don't necessarily have to pay for. Now, we've also got paid, which is pure paid spend. So that means advertising. So like if you think of the traditional, like buying a page in a newspaper where you give them the content and you're like, can you run this? And then they're like, sure, you can pay $10,000 or $50,000 or whatever it is. And then we'll run your full page ad. And then you absolutely get your message out there, but audiences can obviously see what advertising is, and they don't necessarily trust it because everyone knows what advertising is nowadays, and they know that these are just messages that have been marketed, which is why there's always a really amazing mix in successful campaigns of that earned, owned, and paid content and paid spend and like earned and owned channels, right? So it all kind of works together in a way that will put you in front of your ideal client many, many times before they actually buy your product or services, which is needed in today's world where we are constantly bombarded by messages. Before we get back to today's episode, I'm so excited to let you know that my new book, What You Came Here to Create, is now available for pre-order. If you have ever felt called to create something meaningful, like a business, a book, a career change, a creative project, but you found yourself held back by things like fear, self-doubt, and perfectionism, then this book is for you. And if you pre-order before the 15th of September 2026, then you will get access to my Visible Unicorn Challenge as a special gift where I will support you and guide you through the mindset, the self-trust, and the visibility practices to support you to put your work out into the world with confidence and feeling more grounded than ever. So pre-order now via the link in the show notes and at cameheretocreate.com. So what does all this mean for you and your personal brand? So obviously there's a lot of information that I've just shared with you, but here's what you can do with that information, okay? So your personal brand is absolutely essential if you're putting your work out into the world at all and you're wanting to be paid for your work. So even if you don't want to be paid for your work, if you're wanting to really achieve things in the world, you still probably need a personal brand for it. If you want people to know about it, your personal brand is how people will recognize who you are, understand who you are, and it's how you can be seen for your work. Okay. So like I said, there's no one way to do this. So it's really just about being strategic as to what your objectives are and how that is going to work for you, how you can get in front of your audiences. There's a really, obviously like a big kind of, requirement for you to think about as well, what resources you have at your disposal. So in my business, ideally, sure, it would have been great to have, a big spend budget alongside my earned and owned channels, okay? And then, complementing that with some paid stuff, okay? And that would have accelerated my business. That would have accelerated my reach much, much quicker. But I didn't want to get outside of my budget. Okay, I've always been scrappy in my business. I've always looked to grow before necessarily investing. So make a bit of money, invest back. Make a bit of money, invest back. Make a bit more money, invest back. Okay, and that's how I have wanted to grow my business because it's more sustainable than throwing everything in and not necessarily knowing if it's going to work. Because that's the thing as well. You could put so much money and time behind your personal brand and behind campaigns, but it's actually better in a way to build it slowly and organically because then you'll understand what people want, what your ideal clients are actually looking for when it comes to your products and services. And also at the same time, you'll be able to build the skills required to be able to put yourself out there. So I'm actually 7 years into my business, and this is around my book. This is the most spend that I've ever done. Like, this is the biggest investment I've ever made in my business around the marketing, the paid social ads, like all of the book PR that I'm going to be doing. There's so many investments that I'm making because I really, really believe in this product, in my book, and I really believe in the messaging, and I've refined it and honed it over probably a decade. I'm going to say a decade or more, all of the messaging in this book. And I have worked with, hundreds of clients, and I have really honed and refined the work that I do in that, as well as, I guess, my own skills, right? And so if I was to try and do this 10 years ago and put this paid spend in place and put all of these earned and owned channels in place and like done this so much faster, then yes, it would have accelerated things, but would I have been ready for it? Probably not. Okay. And it wouldn't have been tried and tested as well. And so it would have been potentially spending a lot of money, and that money could have been wasted. And so sometimes, it is really important to work and try all of this organically first and see what the response is, see what resonates with your ideal clients. And also, spoiler alert, this is going to change over the years. So what resonates now with people, with buyers, with your ideal client won't necessarily resonate in 12 months' time or even 6 months' time. I feel like in today's world, things are just going faster and faster and faster to the point where we can just feel like trends are coming and going so quickly based on sentiment, based on what's happening in the world, based on the current trends. Okay, so I think like no messaging is obviously forever. No product is forever. Everything has to evolve, products, services, everything. But I think that if we can really think about starting out as organically as possible before even just putting spend in, particularly if we're small micro businesses, then that's going to really support you to grow and to develop those skills and to refine and hone your messaging in front of your ideal clients before you put too much skin in the game, if that makes sense. All right. So I feel like I could talk for hours on this topic, but I want to keep this fairly short and sweet because you can obviously read my book if you want more on this topic. But look, I just want to end this by saying consistency and not perfection is truly the key to building a successful personal brand. Building a personal brand is something that takes time. It can take years and years and years. Like I said, not just for your audience to grow, but also for you to develop the skills required to put yourself out there. When I very first started doing videos, they were so awkward. Like I look back on those and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cute. But I was like reading off a script and it was really awkward and stilted and I didn't really know how to connect with people. And, it's like a lot easier to have a conversation and bounce off people or even speak on stage and bounce off an audience than it is just standing in front of a camera and speaking to that. So actually, all of the live streams and the live videos and the showing up that I did over the years, as well as all the podcasts. This is now my third podcast, fourth if you consider the rebrand from Confidently Visible to What You Came Here to Create. And like I literally have been doing this for years now, but it's been such a incredible talent and skill to refine and hone because it means that it gives me a really good grounding to be able to talk off the cuff and to be able to talk in different speaking environments. And so it's really kind of honed that skill just by doing it so regularly and for so many years. So I want you to think about that as well for yourself when it comes to your personal brand, particularly if it doesn't feel like it comes naturally. I don't think it really comes naturally for anyone, but I guess for some people, they're more prone to wanting to speak up, particularly if they did a lot of speaking when they were younger or in high school, that kind of thing. But, for yourself, I think it's really nice to think about the fact that you can hone and refine this skill over time. And when you very first start out, you might just have one person on your email list. You might have one person on your social media, and it's probably your mum, and that's fine. Because when you go live for the first time or when you share your message, that's great. Like you're not risking everything or feeling like you're risking everything because you're just talking to a very small audience. So as you grow, as you build, your skills will grow and evolve. Your message will be honed and refined as well. So the one thing that I want to say to you is that it's really about consistency of doing it. So when I was building the skill of speaking to camera, I was just going live on Instagram every single Friday at 12 o'clock and I would do a live stream and it would be like 15 minutes, and I would just pick a topic, and then that week I would just riff on it, okay? And sometimes people showed up, sometimes they didn't, but it always forced me out of my comfort zone, and it forced me to just do it. I had no choice but to do it because it was in the diary. I was doing it every week. I would just have to come up with a topic, and then I would just riff on it. And it really did actually support me with my speaking. And it supported me with speaking on the spot. And it also just helped to boost my confidence because it was just like the repetition of doing it again and again and again. So like I said, when you're building your personal brand, the hardest thing is going to be capturing attention, but it's also a really beautiful thing because it gives you the time and space to be able to grow your skills and grow your comfort level when it comes to speaking and putting your work out there as well. I really hope that this has supported you on your journey to building your personal brand and to building your business or your creative pursuit or whatever it is that you're working on to bring it into the world. And if you've got any questions at all, of course, I love hearing from you. So make sure that you DM me or tag me or just comment on social media. I'm at Beck Sands across all of the platforms. Thank you so much for being here with me today and have the best day. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of What You Came Here to Create. If something in this episode resonated with you, I would love it if you would share it with a friend or share it on social media and make sure that you tag me so that we can get this into the ears of more women who may need to hear this message. And before you go, just remember this: you don't need to have everything figured out before you begin. As you take the action, the clarity will come to you. So trust yourself and take the next step and keep an eye out for the next episode of What You Came Here to Create.